So when I first started carrying a gun, I very quickly found out that I did not like carrying Appendix. And I've been carrying on the right side of my hip pretty much ever since. Well, that was until this company reached out to me with a product that totally changed the way that I view Appendix carry. This is what's called a tuck kit, and it's a tactical accessory that reduces the footprint that the male anatomy presents in front of your pistol while you're Appendix carrying. Now, due to the nature of this area, I can't show how to apply this product on YouTube, but there are handy illustrated instructions included in the box. So now I can finally be one of the cool kids and carry Appendix, because we all know that the most important thing when it comes to firearm proficiency is social conformity. Okay, so obviously this is a joke, but it's not a joke that I don't like Appendix carry, and I have a multitude of reasons I'll discuss. And yes, this is directly related to a video that's been making the rounds from a channel called Northwind Aerial, who is now a former Appendix carrier after putting a .40 caliber jacketed hollow point problem solver straight through his dick and balls. If you're not familiar with what a tuck kit is, it's a product for transgender people and cross-dressers to make their genitals appear smaller. I had some other ideas on the drawing board about this video too that were pretty funny, like a chastity cage, or I was gonna have ChatGPT write me a story about how Hitler Appendix carried, and that's how he lost his ball, and I'd start calling it Hitler carry. The other thing I was gonna call it was Reddit carry, and I think that even though it's probably the least funny, I think it really gets at the heart of why I believe Appendix carry is so popular with people who primarily get most of their information on firearms from online platforms like YouTube and Reddit and various other online forums. And unfortunately, a lot of people have convinced themselves or been convinced by this online echo chamber to put their dick and balls in the danger zone of a loaded gun every single day without fully considering the ramifications. And unfortunately, what happened to Northwind Aerials is, in one way or another, the unfortunate consequence of that. So good on this gentleman for making this video and talking about it publicly, because this absolutely does happen, and it probably happens a lot more than people are willing to admit. You know, typically people are not too keen to disclose to the world that they just shot themselves in the first place, but especially not if they just shot themselves in the balls, and that wouldn't have happened if they were carrying their gun in another place. And it probably feels like a big told you so moment, because it's so obvious. You are carrying a gun right next to your balls. Not to mention, a lot of people don't survive an event like this, so dead men tell no tales. Negligent discharges happen. And the most important thing is, when it does happen, that the gun is pointed in a safe direction away from your body or anyone else. When you carry at the traditional 3 or 4 o'clock position, if your waist is smaller than your hips, the muzzle essentially rests on your butt cheek and points away from your body. This is especially true if you have a full-size gun or a full-size holster. If your waist is larger than your hips, number one, consider changing that, but if it is, then there is a possibility that the gun can point at your lower extremities, but at least it's not your balls. And you know, of course, the vast majority of negligent discharges around the holster happen when drawing or reholstering. Even with that in consideration, the chances of hitting something vital back here is just so much less than right here where all your vitals are. And the thing about negligent discharges is, the more experienced you are, the more experienced you become, the more often you expose yourself to this inherently dangerous task. That is what really magnifies the risk of negligent discharge over a lifetime of handling guns. Pretty much every top-level competitive shooter or extremely experienced gunsmith that has mentored me personally, people who've worked with guns almost every single day of their lives for decades, pretty much every single one of them has had some kind of negligent discharge. I've had a negligent discharge. It happens. So I'm not gonna sit here and tempt fate and pretend to be infallible and pretend that there never exists a possibility where that gun could go off without me intending it to. And so I would like to reduce the overall amount of time in my life I spend with a loaded gun pointed at any part of my body, especially my balls. And I say all of this as someone who, when I first started carrying, I wanted to carry Appendix because that's what all of these so-called experts on YouTube said you should do, because it's more concealable, it's faster, it might be easier to control in some kind of struggle. And these things might be true for your use case, but there are many other things to consider. And within a year, I found out that Appendix carry simply didn't make sense for me. Now, I bought into the special holsters and doodads that are expressly designed for Appendix carry, with the wings and the wedges and the claws and all this stuff to make it more concealable and comfortable, but I just couldn't get it to work. Particularly whenever I was trying to do any sort of physical labor, my gun would always be in the way. You know, if I go to pick up something heavy, I'm gonna bring that close to my body. I might even rest it on my belt. If I'm using a shovel or a pry bar or something like that, I'm gonna bring that handle close to my body to get more leverage and body weight on that tool. You know, whenever I was working at a workbench or something, I'd reach over across to get something and bang, the gun would hit the workbench. And even when it wasn't banging into things while doing those types of tasks, it would still be pressing this gun into my body, you know, so it just wasn't comfortable for doing any sort of physical work because you're constantly working, you know, right here, close to your body, right in front of you. Now, the one instance that made me finally stop appendix carrying was working under a car. I've been working under old square body Fords since I was in high school. They sit high enough and I'm skinny enough that I can actually just slide under there and do what I need to do most of the time without jacking the truck up. So I put my cardboard down, I slid under the truck, and a body panel came in and pulled my gun right out of the holster. Thankfully, it was a PX4 Storm, super safe gun, so I didn't really feel that unsafe in the moment. And of course, nothing bad happened, but that was the final straw, and I decided not to carry appendix anymore. Now, if you sit down all day, appendix carry probably works great. And I suspect that's why so many of these guys that spend so much time on the internet trying to convince other people to appendix carry are so sold on the idea. And this is another thing too, where like all of these problems I just described that I had with appendix carrying that I learned through actual experience, there's always going to be a mob of people out there that are going to say, well, you just need to buy XYZ device or this special holster or that holster and get this belt and wear these clothes and change your entire wardrobe and reorder your entire life around having a gun in one particular place on your body because that's what adults do. And just because I know someone is going to do the Reddit smirk and post a lengthy response about how if I had some Ultra Megalodon 3000 holster or something like that, that my gun wouldn't have fallen out when I was working on my trunk. What actually happened was because I'm not a fat ass, like a lot of these internet gun experts are, and my hips are larger than my waist, when I slid under the car, that took the weight off my belt, which meant the holster wasn't being pressed against my body, and that reduced how much retention that the holster had. Now, obviously, I set the retention of my holster so that when the holster is completely off my body, I can tip the gun completely upside down, give it a shake, and it won't fall out. Obviously, that wasn't enough to prevent being snagged and pulled out by a body panel as I was sliding under my truck. Another thing they don't tell you when you're new to appendix carry is the first time you go to take a poop and you undo your trousers and sit down, your gun is going to want to flop out in front of you and probably point right at your head. And if you don't have your retention set right, it might even fall out of the holster completely. So until you get used to, again, reordering your entire life, retraining the way you take a shit, so you pull your pants down in a specific way so that your gun won't flip over, it's going to want to do that. So all of that is why I initially stopped appendix carrying. And by the way, you never make money back on a holster, so I ended up losing money on all those stupid holsters. But now that I have much more experience, now that I am friends with and have been mentored by people who are significantly more experienced than I am, now that I know not to listen to people on the internet, I'm firmly satisfied carrying at the traditional 3 or 4 o'clock position. And really, it shouldn't have even taken all of that for me to realize appendix carry wasn't for me. It should have been, you know, a total non-starter with the fact that you're pointing a gun at your balls. You know, you have to kind of be a little bit of a midwit like I was to be able to rationalize past that and believe whatever ethereal tenths of a second faster draw time was actually worth anything, or so I'd been told by the internet experts. So yeah, call me a FUD or boomer or whatever, I don't care. If any of you have had similar experiences with appendix carry or switched to or from appendix carry, I'd like to hear why. Ultimately, whatever you choose to do in your life is your choice and it doesn't affect me. So if you want to point a gun at your balls, don't involve me in it. If you want to buy a tuck kit so you can appendix carry without worrying about shooting your balls, go right ahead and make sure to use my Amazon affiliate link right down in the description below. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thanks to my channel members and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel directly. You can become a Patreon supporter or channel member by clicking the relevant links on screen or in the description below. You can also support the channel by going to fanathem.com/JaredAF and purchasing an entry to win an Omega Seamaster. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.